Welcome back to the Guitar Reliquary. Today we have a very special guitar for me, which is the signature model of one of my favorite artists, and that is, of course, Dave Mustaine of Megadeth. So today we're looking at the Kramer Dave Mustaine Vanguard Rust in Peace guitar in Alien Tech Green. So this was released a short time ago, maybe a month or so ago, and it's based off of his Gibson models. And I actually had one of the Rust in Peace Gibson models, but there were some things I didn't like about it. So as I go through this video today, I'm going to talk about the differences between the Kramer, which I vastly prefer, over the Gibson Alien Tech Green guitar. All right, so let's get started. The first thing about the Kramer Dave Mustaine Vanguard that you'll notice is that it has pointy ends as opposed to the rounded ends of a Gibson Dave Mustaine model. The second thing you will notice is that it has the string through body tailpiece as opposed to the Tunomatic, and I much prefer the string through body design that was like his Dean guitars to the Tunomatic on the V. To me, it looks a little strange with the Tunomatic on the V as opposed to this tailpiece. The third thing is this really cool Kramer logo, of course. The Gibson version just had the regular Gibson inlaid headstock thing, but this has this cool like shadowed Rust in Peace font Kramer logo, which I really like. It's like a gray and green decal or something underneath the finish. Now, as for the other parts of this, it is a mahogany body, and I believe mine is a three-piece based on seams that I can see here and over here. So three-piece body. It is a set mahogany neck. It's a set in, and it has the Dave Mustaine medium C profile, which is very comfortable. I was a little disappointed that the Kramer came with the C profile as opposed to the D profile that I think is on the Epiphone Prophecy version of the Dave Mustaine guitar. It also has the neck volute, which is nice because you have some additional support at the weakest part of the neck. And then some of the things are very similar to the Gibson model. So with the mahogany body, mahogany neck, that's the same as the Gibson. Ebony fretboard, that's the same. The Dave Mustaine Thrash Factor pickups, which I really like. They're like Seymour Duncan's on steroids. It's wonderful. They're much better than the Livewire active pickups that were in the Deans, in my opinion. Comes with a 3-position switch. You've got your neck volume, your bridge volume, and a master tone control, as if you need a tone control playing metal. I'm kidding. Don't flame me in the comments. And so all this is pretty much the same as the Gibson. It has a Graphtec nut. The Graphtec nut on this is black. I believe it's white on the Gibson one. I'll pull out a picture here. The Gibson one, though, has some substantial differences that affect the playability of the guitar. So the Kramer has an ebony fretboard. Again, that's the same as the Gibson, but it has a 12-inch radius. So 12-inch radius is standard for most Gibson models, SGs and Les Pauls. The Dave Mustaine Gibson has actually a 10-inch to 16-inch compound radius. And that's wonderful for some people who like the more rounded neck up here and the flatter neck down at this end of the board. But I prefer the consistent 12 across. And that's probably because I've played Music Man Steve Morse models. You can see one on the wall behind me over here, and Les Pauls, which have 12-inch radiuses for years. 12-inch radii, I guess. So that's one major difference. The second major difference in the playability department is the fret size. So the Kramer, I was so happy to find out, comes with jumbo frets, and I love jumbo frets. The Gibson Dave Mustaine came with medium jumbo frets, and what I've noticed about Gibson in the last few years is that that medium jumbo has gotten shorter. And it was really strange because I measured the first fret on the Gibson model, and it was the normal size of, you know, a larger medium jumbo fret. So maybe like, you know, 3/64 of an inch height. And then when you got down here, it was below 2/64 of an inch. So they took a lot of material off as they went flatter. And maybe that's part of the compounding process with the plec, or maybe it has to do with the way that they're setting the tailpiece and the action when they're doing the plec. But that made it really hard for me to play because I like a tall fret. I don't really care about the width, but the height is important to me because I'm used to playing on guitars with jumbo frets. So when I go to something that's short, it's really challenging. And I don't have any guitars that have frets as short as that Gibson Dave Mustaine did. The other thing that you'll notice about the fretboard that's different from the Gibson one is the inlays. So this just comes with plain dot inlays, which I could take it or leave it. I love a clean fretboard with no inlays, or I love a fretboard that has like block inlays or something. Dots are in the middle for me. It doesn't influence my decision about purchasing a guitar, but it is a difference here. The other thing to be aware of with the Dave Mustaine V is that it doesn't have a Gibson scale length. The Gibson didn't either. It had a 25.5-inch scale length as opposed to the 24.75-inch scale length that you're accustomed to on the Les Pauls, SGs, and the traditional sort of Flying Vs that Gibson sells. Nice nut work. I only had to take the saddles down, the slots down a little bit, which I had to do anyways because I was putting 10 to 52 gauge strings on it, which is what Dave Mustaine uses on stage. I guess his studio set is 9 to 52. Two-way adjustable truss rod, which I love. The Gibsons don't have the two-way adjustable truss rod. They have a one-way, and I'm a big fan of the two ways. The other reason that I forgot to mention that I really prefer the Kramer to the Gibson is that the Gibson was not grain filled before they painted it. So the paint was, you could still see like the grain of the wood and the paint sunk into it. And so this, Alien Tech Green, I wanted like a smooth metallic finish where you can't tell that there's wood underneath here. But the Gibson you can. So they actually spray the nitro over it. And then finally, they have the same tuners. They have the Grover mini tuners that Dave Mustaine has been using for a long time, and that's what it is. The electronics in this are hand-wired, CTS pots, Switchcraft switch. It's very, very smooth. I did have 2 issues with this when I got it. I bought it from Guitar Center, and Guitar Center doesn't always check things over before they send it out. So one issue I had is that there was a lot of noticeable scratching on the fretboard, as if somebody had dropped something and it had scratched the actual wood. And I was able to actually polish that out to a large extent using some steel wool. But if I were the average customer and I didn't know how to do that, I didn't have the tools to do that, I might be pretty upset. Along with that, the frets were super uneven. It was a mountain range. Some were low, some were high. That's no problem for me. I just taped off the board, did a quick fret level, and now I have the action at 4/64 of an inch on the bass side, and actually I can get it as low as 2/64 of an inch on the treble side, or maybe 2.5. So it really takes a low action very well, and that's something that I really liked about the Dean Dave Mustaine models, is that you could get a really low action on it. So that was one problem, was the neck, and I took care of that. The second problem, which was more glaring, and I actually think it's a design flaw for Epiphone, is the bridge. So this comes with the Epiphone lock tone bridge. So it's that magnetic bridge, and it has the retaining wire across the screws. And, you know, the bridge is a good enough quality, but the radius was completely off on this. So it actually went such that the high E was lower than the G, and then the D was lower than the high E, and then the low E was higher than all of them. So it kind of had like a wave motion in the bridge. And so I had to actually do a lot of filing to the saddles to get it so that the radius of the bridge matches the radius of the neck. And it's actually not quite perfect. The base needs to come down a little bit, but I took a lot of material off the base side saddle, and I'm afraid that it will impact my right hand feel if I do that. So I actually bought a nice Goto bridge from Stu Mac for like, I don't know, 25 bucks, 30 bucks. That's also black like this to replace it with. Other than that, I am just completely blown away by the quality of the Kramer. Epiphone has come so far in recent years. I was just raving about the Alex Lifeson guitar in the other video. I feel the same way about the Kramer, which is of course made by Gibson and has a lot of the Epiphone things going on with it. I shouldn't say made by Gibson, sold by Gibson, made by Epiphone Factory. And then it really is a lot of fun to play. It really looks great. To me, it looks more like the Dave Mustaine V should. It doesn't have the Gibson classic look that some of the other Flying Vs have. Beyond that, just, you know, black dots on the side of the neck, in the binding. It's very clean. There's no really finish overspray or anything. And yeah, it's a wonderful guitar. That's all for today's episode of the Guitar Reliquary. I hope that, until next time, you'll rust in peace.